Thanks so much. Man, it's an absolute pleasure to be here and doing this for you guys. And I come out of this strange community of people. And actually, the community that I come out of, that I started writing out of, was really a community of me in my room by myself when I was in college. And I was an engineering student. You can maybe tell, you see some of the really clever references to phase transformations hidden in there in my poems. Oh, guys, I got a new one I came up with the other day. It was about how stalactites are really an indication of dendritic action in sort of a macromolecular way. Right, okay. Sorry, my inner nerd had to come out. It has to come out every once in a while. And anyway, I was in a room by myself, and all of a sudden, these words popped into my head. And I thought, it's cool. Maybe that's important. I'll write it down. So I wrote them down. I finished writing this thing out, and I was like, it's not quite a song. I think I wrote a poem. I wrote a poem. And so that was cool, I started writing here and there. And after a while, I got this idea. I saw there was this arts festival coming up, and I thought, hey, maybe I'll submit some of my poems. Maybe I get to read them or something. So I did. They got accepted. And right before I got on stage, this is always when the magic happens, and this will either doom your show or make it a failure. Right before I get on stage, I'm hoping for the, did I say either doom it or make it a failure? Because, dang it. Yeah, well, there you go. See? So do good. Come up with ideas right before you get on stage, and you can either doom them or make them a failure. Clever. All right. And anyway, so you can come up with all these ideas. Well, I came up with this idea. It'd be great if I didn't just read my stuff the way everybody else does, but if I kind of like acted it out, like do every action for every word in the piece. So I was telling the guy who's the director of the festival, he's like, you don't want to do too much. You don't want to scare people. I think I've already crossed that bridge. Anyway, so I get up there, I do it, and everybody liked it, it was cool, it was great. And so I go on from there, and I see in the paper, I hear about this thing called the Austin Poetry Slam. And this lady, actually, she read some stuff. She said, this is called a slam poem. And she reads them. I was like, that was pretty tame. Now, I just saw myself, performing just before this, and then I saw her. She was really tame. If that's a slam poem, if that's what a slam poem is, then what do I do? Is that like explosive nuclear bomb poetry? I don't know what it is. So I was like, I should go check one of these things out. So I go, and well, it's a competition. So I have a few poems, that I take with me. Oh man, I was shaking like a leaf, especially the paper that I held in my hand. My hand was, just jittering like this, and I was trying to control myself. Well, it was fun. I started doing this thing, and after a while, I found out poetry slams, they exist in a lot of different places. They have these poetry slams once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, maybe at the least once a month or something like that. So some people come a lot. You can imagine that some of them win a lot. Okay, and at a poetry slam, the way that you win, you've got like 12 people. Usually it's around 12 people. Sometimes they have a little different formats, but the general format is this. The top 6, they do a poem. Oh, everybody does a poem in the first round. You get 3 minutes to do your own original poem. No animal acts, no accompaniment, only the sounds that you can make with your own body. You know what I'm saying, Roy? So at the end of this first round, after 3 minutes, they get 5 judges, and they each give the poem a score from 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, 0 being the lowest. They throw out the high from the American judge, the low from the Russian judge. They keep the 3 in the middle, and then at the end of that, the top 6 go on. They do a second poem in the next round. Okay, then they get that judge. Then they go on to the final round. The top 3 do a final poem. They pick a winner, right? Some people come a lot, some people win a lot. They have these things, citywide poetry slams, to see who gets on the city team to go to the national poetry slams, right? And so then they've got national poetry slams. They even have international poetry slams. So you may not know it, but there's this whole community out there where it's like, oh, it's 3-time National Poetry Slam winner Taylor Molly. Oh, I hope he talks to me, and I hope he does that poem about how he's a teacher, and he doesn't get any respect because he's a teacher, but at least he knows how to spell respect because he's a teacher, and he knows how to spell teacher too. Well, I figured that with all this injustice in the slam poetry world, that I would write a poem about the most amazing slam poet you've ever heard. He he's walking to the stage. What is he gonna say? The most amazing slam poet you've ever heard. Weaned on the coal-fired curd, the Blacktooth Mountains. Lava fire fountains of spoken destruction raining as brimstone down on vulnerable onlookers. Their fingers taut against the underside of tables. You bleacher benches, the pew-sitting faithful unable to utter a whimper from the gape of quivering lips. Why, all the other challengers just flipped out and ran at the approach of his steel-toed sentences, belly-splitting pop culture comedic references, tearing down fences of their puny imaginations with one flick of his tongue. Why, he's so good, any other slammer would be risking verbal castration. Performance suicide against the onslaught of such an unstoppable colossus. Defeating him would be inconceivable. So you might as well just suit up and strap your fat jowls in for the ride, because you can't hide from the unleashed microphone, fury-filled, iron-willed, sensibly appealing power of the most amazing slam poet you've ever heard. He'll turn judges' scorecards into 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the 10 to the high scores. Really, really high scores. And don't even start thinking of... Sorry. Don't even start thinking I'm talking about me, because he'd shrivel all my shaggy-looking red-haired wildness into a little shrunken walnut-sized thing I used to call a brain, like Zoink Scoob. Why, I'm just the warm-up to the fifth-string splinter puller, to the third-string pine rider, to the backup spit bottle carrier, to the most amazing slam poet you've ever heard. And I think I hear him now, approaching the stage. Oh man, he's so good. What is he gonna say? But the most amazing slam poet I've ever heard didn't say anything. She couldn't even speak. Too weak and incapacitated to utter a sound or even rise from her bed, all the mental synapses in her head riddled with 8 years of Alzheimer bullet holes. But every memory or ability stolen from her body couldn't stop the joy explosion in her eyes every time we'd arrive. And it wasn't just inside her, it was all around her, coming from her, flowing through her mind, gone, body feeble, but she had something that made her human, made her godlike, gave her treasure that nothing on earth or in heaven would ever take away. She didn't need to say anything. The wealth and beauty of her life uttering more volumes than any poet could ever pen. My grandmother knew what it meant to live, even in the face of suffering that seemed to have no end. So when it's my turn, and the real performance of my life has begun, I remember how she won the race, her adventurous pace of living forever that cheated the grave, speaking to me every time I turn the page or come to this stage. And now this microphone of life is yours. So what are you going to say? What are you going to say with your one beautiful, amazing, God-given life?